Right, so here we go. Welcome to making this Valentine's swan decoration. And you basically, you will see how easy it is. It looks quite complicated, but it's um, a super easy project. I'm just going to make myself a little bit bigger. Here we go. So hopefully everybody can see me on the big screen now. Um, and you've got in your material pack. Let me just show you the things that you would have in your material pack. So you've got a big pile of wool. There is definitely more wool in there than you need for this one decoration, so that's nice. The red embroidery thread is to hang your decoration, and then you've got 1.5 pipe cleaners. Now, one of them is a little bit skinnier. Just ignore that. It just we had them, so we used them. And then you've got one long one, and we're starting with the long one. So the little one will make the swans, and the big one will make the heart. Now, if you look very carefully, and this is important, you have two different whites. So you have a core wool. This is our basic core wool. And then you've got a white that in daylight will look much more brilliant white than maybe here in artificial light if you compare the two. But you can probably just about tell them apart. They are next to each other in the pack, so make sure that you put the nice white away for the minute. You want that out of the way. We don't need that. We just need that slightly lumpier core wool. The nice white is for the swans, and the core wool is for wrapping the pipe cleaner with wool. And everything else that's here can also just go to one side. So you're just having the pipe cleaner and um, the core wool there. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to wrap the whole length of the pipe cleaner bar about 1 centimeter at each end with the core wool. And so I'm going to tease a little bit of this wool off. You want to get a longer strand as possible, but if you pull the wool and it bounces like this, then you have the fibers running that way. If you pull the wool and it comes apart, it doesn't bounce, but you just pull it apart, then still got the fibers running that way, but you want it to go so that you can pull it and it bounces. So you can stretch it a little bit longer. And then all you're going to do is you're going to start wrapping one end of the pipe cleaner. And remember, when you wrap wool around a wire, you always go over and round. So you want to keep it nice and flat. And you're going to cover now the whole length of that pipe cleaner with a nice neat layer going all the way across. Now, if you're used to wrapping wool around wire, what can happen naturally is that you turn the whole thing round and you literally just twist your pipe cleaner and allow the wool to slide through your fingers. It's a little bit like, I always imagine what you do with your left hand is a bit like spinning. I'm not a spinner, but you hold onto the wool and you let it sort of lengthen itself. If anybody's ever done spinning, if not, just don't get confused with what I'm saying. Just ignore what I said. But you want to keep a nice tension, so you just always making sure that this wool comes away from your fingers at an even tension and even size. You go all the way until you run out of wool. This might be for you when you're here, or it might be even there. Now, because I've turned my whole pipe cleaner around, I need to get back to the where I started. So I started here. This is my left hand, and I started on this side, and I'm working my way that way. So I'm taking another bit of wool. Again, I sort of test which way the fibers are pulling. So this seems to be the bouncy part. So I can stretch it a little bit longer, and I'm going to start in that same direction again. So just to make a start. And obviously we're going to cover this whole white cover with lovely, beautiful colored wool. And I'm going to go all the way across so that I've literally just got 1 centimeter of pipe cleaner sticking out at the other end. If you are asking me now what's 1 centimeters in inches, I don't know, but it's that much. It's about a width of my small finger. So and I've got quite big hands, so Anyway, you can't really go wrong. If it's a bit more, a bit less, it doesn't matter. And then you go back again. So we're building this layer slowly but surely. You don't need to needle felt this. If you make it nice and neat, you can just keep it quite neat with wrapping wool. And this wool is not brilliant for wrapping wire, to be honest, because it's quite lumpy at times, but it doesn't really matter. We do actually want it to be quite bouncy. So we want the layers to be quite soft and bouncy. We don't want them to be very flattened and 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 firm. So going back to my beginning, this is where I started. No, actually, this is where I started. So I'm starting at the beginning again. The reason why I'm getting you to go back where you started is so that you wrap the wool in the same direction as you did before, so it doesn't unwind the wool underneath. But you will get to a point where you're gonna have to needle felt into the wool. So if you have a slight clash of direction, then just pop it onto your felting mat. You're using a medium felting needle for this, and you're just going to stab into your shape gently, avoiding the wire, to just tuck away some of the lumpy bits on that wire. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a very even cover, except for the ends. This part needs to be as even as possible. So apparently a centimeter is 0.197 inches. That's what Google says. Okay. So I'm gonna now use more of that core wool and build another layer. So I'm starting here. I actually can't remember now which way I was wrapping underneath, but I soon find out. Get the wool on there. And don't worry if it looks a little bit lumpy. I promise you it will completely be even out when we do all the magic with the colors shortly. So wrap your wool around it. By the way, you can use all of the core wool. So just make sure you're not tapping into your swan wool. This is your swan wool. I've put that completely to one side. Not that you need that much for the swan, but we're always very generous with our wools. I'd hate to think that you haven't got enough. So I always think, oh, let's just put a bit more in just in case. Yeah. So added that on. If you've got bits of grass in there, just ignore it if you can. Otherwise, pick it out. Eventually, it will work its way to the surface anyway. But it's just shows that the sheep have been happily grazing in the grass and probably still do. So they are our basic core wool, if anybody is interested, is actually recycled. So it had a different purpose in terms of so it's come from the sheep. It was used to make something else, and this is sort of the remnants of it, and we upcycle it. Normally it would have to be disposed of, but we buy it. And we resell it, and that's why we can offer it quite competitively. It's from Welsh sheep, and don't make me pronounce the sheep breed. It's got lots of L's and vowels in it, so yes, it's one of those. Right, can barely speak English, so never mind pronouncing Welsh sheep breeds. And then now I'm just assessing where I need to build layers, because I can see there's a bit of a dip in here. So I just now focusing more on adding the wool where it's required. And I'm gonna felt that down. And this could go on forever, because there will always be somewhere where you think, oh, actually, I should have put more wool down there. Or I should have put more wool down there. So at some point, we're just gonna call it off, because you either have used all the wool or you've got sort of the right thickness here. And the a lot of the thickness is actually also, or can be built on with the colored wool. You've got plenty of colored wool, so you don't need to worry too much using up all of your core wool, but you can if you want to. So just felt it down nice and neatly. And remember not to hit that wire. The needle will lose if you hit the wire. The wire will win. There we go. So looks a little bit fatter here, so I'm going to just add a bit more at this end, and I've got that much of the core wool left, which I might just leave because we've got so much of these lovely colors, and we don't want it to be too big, because if it's too big, then we lose the heart shape. So when I look at the finished shape, here's the finished heart, just to remind you, and the width of it is no more than well, it's just under 2 centimeters. So this is just under 2 centimeters, and that I do know is an inch, I think, or is that 2.5 centimeters? Anyway, it's about as thick as my index finger. So felting this down, and the next part is my favorite bit, because we're gonna get to mix wool, and worse, we're gonna get to mix Angelina fiber. So that's gonna be extra fun. So I'm just felting this down, felting into them. I can sort of feel my way along the wire, the covered wire, obviously, and I can feel where this feels a bit thinner here, so I may just add a little bit here, but it doesn't matter if it's not. You don't need to be too precise on this. It's just so that we've got a relatively even looking covered wire length. And like I say, you could do this forever and then build a bit more, and then you find somewhere else is a bit thinner, so we'll never get to the end of this. So the next part, I'm going to put this to one side now, is I'm going to show you how you can make these gorgeous colors pop out even nicer and melt one into another by mixing them. If anybody has done our dragon, the red dragon, you will be familiar how to do this, because we use almost the same colors. Well, we had less colors, we had all the base colors, and we actually mixed green and we mixed orange. So you've got a bit of an advantage here. Now you've got a tiny bit of Angelina fiber, which was here in the purple. You can put the Angelina fiber wherever you want. I've put it up here into the top part of the heart. You can have it down here, this way around where the water is. It can go anywhere. I've just chosen to put it here. So if I follow my original heart, then you can use a little bit of the red, and mixing wool is always good to use very few, very small amounts of wool. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of the pink Angelina fiber in there. Now, Angelina fiber is a man-made fiber, and it's iridescent and something else that I've always forget what it's called. But basically, it sort of takes on the color of the wool almost. So when you mix it in, it reflects that color, and I can still see that it's slightly pink, but it doesn't like sort of stick out as very pink. So you can mix it in into the red, and then you're going to be working with really small quantities. This is the important bit. And then you're going to find sort of roughly the middle of that pipe cleaner, and you're going to add a layer of white into the center of it. So you're just literally wrapping the center part in red, and then you felt it down, still using your medium needle. Now, you don't want to felt too deep into the white, because you don't want to push the white now out at the other end. So you just want to color in that section of the pipe cleaner. So I'll show you, if you push all the way through, can you see how the white is coming out here? You don't want that. You want to stab the red into the white, but you don't want to stab the white out of the red at the other side. So it is a fairly shallow stab that you're making, just enough so that the red gets fastened into the white, and that goes for all of it going forward. So once you've got a bit of red on there in the corner, then we work one side, bit of the other side, that side, bit of the other side, blah, 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 until we get to the base. So to do these gradual gradient color moves, you always use a bit of the original color and a bit of the new color, and you mix the two together to start with, and this gives you a smooth transition. So I'm using the orange and the red now, just a little bit, because we don't want to reach down here very quickly. We've got quite a lot of colors to fit on there. So I'm using the red and the orange and I'm actually mixing it. And notice what I'm doing is, so I'm overlaying the colors and I'm mixing it by teasing it apart that way and overlaying it in the same direction. Now you can mix wool by just doing this. But if you do that, you get bobbly wool. We don't want that. You see how it's already starting to bobble. What we do want is you want to imagine as if you are trying to align the fibers parallel to each other, and that makes a really much more even mix. And there's a time and a place to do the other mixing, but not on this occasion. So you will have to then start pulling the bobbles out, otherwise it makes it look uneven. So I've done this now, and now I'm going to add this next to the red so that there's no transition visible between the red and the orange. I'm going to pop that around there and felt it down. So you get a nice blend from one to the other. It transitions really evenly and you felt it down. And then you have to do the same on the other side. So this is heading towards one end, and we're going to do the other end too. And we do this always the same colors rather than finishing one side off. So I'm using very small amounts of wool here. So this is just to add a little bit of that orange. Now, if you have lost all your red, you can always add a bit more red back into it, especially if you want more Angelina fiber in there. I've still got some Angelina fiber left here. So you can go over that again. Remember, with needle felting, the best thing about it is that you can always return to some stage and redo it if you wish. So I've still got my sparkly bits here. And now I'm going to use just the orange. Very small amounts. Look, this is how much I've got. And I'm literally using a small amount. You're going to have so much wool left over. And I'm wrapping this now around the mixed orange to blend it into the wool to make a smooth transition. It's all about getting that smooth transition. And then I felt that down. The idea is that you don't see the white through it anymore. If you still see the white, add more. If you and always overlap the colors, so you don't have a strict like separation. They are melting into one another. That's the idea. So that's the orange on there. And now I'm going to do the same on the other side. So always working slowly with very, very little wool, wisps, just working your way from away from the color. Excuse me, my traditional sneeze when I'm doing a tutorial. I think it's the wool getting to my nose. And if for whatever reason you've got a line here like I have now, then all you need to do is just add a tiny amount of the previous blend over that line. So this is like I say, this is the beauty about needle felting. You can't ever go wrong because you've always got an opportunity to correct your work. So if that bothers you that there is a line like there is with me, then this is a smooth transition, and then here I've got a line. Then you can just literally use tiny wisps of that mix and place them over it again and felt it down, and hopefully that will have taken care of that. But if you've got a line, it's not the end of the world. Maybe you like lines. So then we've got the orange now. So now we're getting to the yellow. So we are blending yellow and orange again to get that smooth transition from orange to yellow, so it's not a stripe. So we're making another blend, this time with the yellow and the orange. Incidentally, we are currently out of our golden yellow. This is quite a bright yellow. Our traditional golden yellow, which is more like an egg yolk yellow. And if you are missing it in our color palette, we will have it back. I've now found somewhere where we can buy it. which is pretty much identical to the one that we had before. But I also worked out that you can actually blend it yourself by using that bright yellow and the orange. So that's another way of doing it. So, and now I've got my blend here of that slightly yolky color, and I'm adding that next to the orange so that I'm getting to the pure yellow next. So I'm just adding that, felting it down. Once you've got the colors on, and if you want to reduce the size of your pipe cleaner sausage, you can use your fine felting needle and go over the whole length again. If you want to, if this is too thick, this your pipe cleaner is, if that's too thick, then you can with a fine needle reduce the size without making too big stab marks in there, because you've got to stab quite deeply into it. But remember, don't come out the other side, because then you just push the white wool all the way through. So adding that blend on the other side there, and felt that down as well. It's really nice to watch this sort of evolve, don't you think? Nice color transition from the red. Now we are halfway of where the colors need to be. So the next big transition is from the yellow to the green. Okay. So if your Angelina fibers weren't in the same bag as mine, I sort of I got like a, I don't know, just the wool pack. You might find your Angelina fiber in a separate bag, so it doesn't contaminate the fibers like it has done with mine. Everything's sparkling because of the Angelina fiber. So I've got my green here, and obviously I want to now make that transition from the green to the yellow. Actually, we're going to put the yellow on first, bit of the pure yellow, because that's what we're aiming for. Sorry, I'm a step ahead. So we're just putting yellow on now, next to the mix, like that. And going from yellow to green is a big transition. So at the moment, we've all got these sort of slightly zesty colors going from one to another, and then suddenly green is an all completely different color. So bit of yellow that side as well. So you can see how little wool I'm using in comparison to what we've actually got in the kit or in your pack. So you don't really need to use an awful lot. So keep going along here. I mean, in theory, if you were to do this going forward, you wouldn't need orange and you wouldn't need green, because you could mix those colors from the base colors, and the same with purple. But I've put those colors in there because I just thought it was fun to have them all and then make the grading even more smooth. So, right, red, orange, yellow. And now we're going to use the yellow and the green, and we mix those two together. So you've got that lovely sort of mellow green with quite a vibrant yellow. And you want to mix those two colors so that we have a transition between the yellow and the green. It's very bright and very lovely colors going on here. So you can see that the yellow is actually a much stronger color than the green. So I might just add a little bit of more green to it. Though it is coming through, the more you mix it, it definitely softens that bright yellow. So just holding it next to it, but I might just add a little bit more green into it. So this is probably much more than I would actually use this batch here, but because I've added green, it's become a bit bigger. If you find you have to add so much wool that your hands can't mix the wool anymore, then just split it and only mix as much as you can actually manage between your fingers. There we go. Let's see how that blends in. So now you want to just add very thin layers of the green and letting it sort of slightly overlap into the yellow. And then felt that down. like I say, you can always try and blend the wool in a little bit more, but this is the biggest transition from the yellow to the green. So you might have to go over it a couple more times where the transition is meant to take place so that you have a very smooth transition. But if it's not that smooth, it's not the end of the world. That's actually a bit lump of green there. Take that out. So that side. So in comparison, if you want to compare it to how you would use your fine felting needle, you've got a lot more scope to not show the stab marks so much and maybe get the transition a bit smoother as well. So it's up to you when you want to change to your fine needle. And now I'm going to add another layer onto that side. So it seems like we're spending a lot of time on this, but I think it's definitely worth it to get the transitions nice and smooth. I'm going to use my fine needle on this one because it's such a delicate, it needs to be very subtle, and the wools, the two colors are quite opposite. I mean, they're not really opposite. They are obviously next to each other on the color wheel, but it is that yellow is quite a bright yellow. So there's the next layer, and now I can go to the green, just the green, and add a little bit of green here so that it does its own little section. And felt that down. And then all we've got left is blue and purple. But a lot of the blue and the purple is not so visible because, just reminding you, there's the heart, and so there will be purple in there. It's almost like you can hang the decoration up, and obviously if you get to purple and blue sooner, then there will be more visible. But the idea is that you've got a blue and purple mix for the water for the swans to float on. So that's what I'm aiming for. So felt the green down on both sides. Here as well. Oh, it's a nicer transition on this side. So I've actually switched just for the green and yellow wool to my fine needle. I just feel it separates the wool less by stabbing into it, into the different colors. Oh, I need a bit more there. There's a bit of white showing. And I mean, I've barely touched the wool. So yeah, you definitely got a lot of wool there to complete this project. Like I say, you can probably make another, you will have to use different core wool and find your own pipe cleaners, but there is a lot of wool left there to make a second one. So, right, so that's the, I love these colors. Don't they just look lovely? So the next one, you've guessed it already, we're using blue and green. We're mixing the two together, making this really nice blue-green mix. Just a subtle color here. And then a lot of this will probably disappear. So we're not getting completely to the blue because that will be where the swans are floating on mixed with purple. So I'm literally just finishing off that last section here. And there will be a little bit of white showing. So just leave that white showing for the minute. And just felt that down. Remember that you can rewatch this anytime. So if I'm working a little bit too fast for your liking, then just chill, just do what you do, and then catch up the second time you watch it, and just pause me when you need to catch up. And so you don't need to feel stressed about doing this in one sitting. That's all I'm saying. So there we are. That's the pipe cleaner all covered now. And let's have a look. So from end to end, and what will happen in a minute, I'll just give you the sort of heads up. We're going to close this up by hooking these ends into each other, and that will become the base. And then the top, we're going to bend into the heart shape because we've got that pipe cleaner. And there's your heart happening now. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, this could be a base to anything. You don't have to have swans sitting on there. You could have, I don't know, something else sitting on the base of the heart. You can scale it up if you wanted to, use longer wire, thicker wire, and make it a big heart. It's a good way to create this kind of background, so to speak, 3D background. So I'm just going to check in with everybody that everybody is good. So just bear with me. Right, so rainbows done. Next step will be to join the base together. So I'm going to go back to the overhead camera so you can see it better. And here we go. So you now need to make the end of the pipe cleaner is uncovered. Just turn it into a little hook and then do the same on the other side. And these two now need to interlock, and you basically just pinch them shut. So it's like they are like this, basically. That's how the two pipe cleaner ends are now. And that's going to be the bottom part. Don't worry too much about bending the heart shape in because it only gets unbent again. And then we're going to build a little bit more down here for the swans to sit on. And you need a bit of blue and you need a bit of that purple. And actually, it might be quite nice to put a bit of sparkly stuff on there for glittering for water. I've got a bit of Angelina fiber left, so I'm just going to mix that into it. So make the water sparkly, and I've got the top sparkly as well. But to be honest, even if you haven't used any Angelina fiber, you can use that at any point by just mixing tiny amounts of wool and just felting it down into the surface. So I've got a bit more wool here now, and I'm building for starters, I've got to cover this part of the pipe cleaner. Now, you could use leftover core wool, but you don't have to. I'm just going to, and obviously we have to now wrap it so that it goes in and out of that round shape. So I'm just going to build, and this is going to be quite a bigger part of it. So you can already make that a little bit fatter. And I'm just going to felt that down. Use my medium felting needle actually. So felt it down back and front, same way. But it is going to be a bit of a larger base. So because we need to fasten the swans onto there later on. I'm just going to felt this down quite softly. So before we've always made a really solid wrap. Now we're going to make it a little bit more fluffy as a base for the swans to be secured to. So I'm just going to show you the finished sample. So you can see there will be quite a large base, which we build up once the swans are secured. But if we have a base here where the swans can attach, then it's easier to build the like the water level up a little bit, so to speak. So just felting that down. And I need to add a little bit more because I've got a white patch here. So I'm going to mix a bit more of this wool. I've got a tiny bit of Angelina fiber left, but I want to keep that for the water level when I'm adjusting that. So just wrapping that around it. Almost losing my Angelina fiber now, but it's okay. There's still a bit showing. And it's very, Angelina fiber doesn't need to be used in large quantities. It's very, very, very sparkly. Even just one strand can sometimes, it can be very annoying if you try and rid yourself of any of the sparkles on your felting mat. you'll always find some popping up somewhere. And yeah, so it can be a little bit of a nuisance, the Angelina fiber. So building up that base, trying to keep that in the center. And it's literally, most of it will be covered because you've got the swans in front of it, and we're getting to the swans next. So I'm just evening this side out a little bit. Don't know that my Angelina fiber is now inside, but that's okay. You can have sparkles inside and only you know they're there. So that is basically the blue and the purple mixed. So not a lot of it will be visible, but it's just nice to know that we've completed the rainbow of colors and gone from blue to purple. And I don't even know what's the front and the back of this at the moment. So whether the swans will sit on this side or on this side, probably this side. So that that I'm going to put to one side. It's slightly thicker at the moment, but even if it wasn't, as long as you can secure the swans onto it, you will be building more layers onto this shortly. So right, now we're going to get to the swans. So you've got a half a pipe cleaner in your pack. Let's just see how long is that. Yeah, it's exactly half. And so the swans, I've actually got a pair here. They're made from one length of pipe cleaner. And so it's actually quite clever in how they are joined together by the beaks, but you can't necessarily tell when they're sitting together. So all of this will be made out of that. I think it's important sometimes to see the stages ahead. And so first of all, we're going to cover the center, the middle of it, in the orange, and we don't want to put a white layer on there. We want to go straight to orange because we want the beaks to be as delicate as possible. Now, you just need a little bit of that orange, and you need to sort of aim for the middle. It doesn't matter if you cover more than the beaks will be, because there's going to be black added to it next. So if you can manage to get a really thin layer in the center, it pays off because then the beaks will be really slim as well. So just make sure that you've got the middle part covered, even if you cover more around the edges. So I had to keep bending my pipe cleaner to see where the middle part is. So that part here, you need about, I want to say, at least 2 centimeters. So between my thumb and my thumb is about 2 centimeters, and that will make 2 beaks. So they will be like that. They will be touching, okay? And if you make them slimmer than that, that's good. These are quite thick. You can probably make them a little bit thicker than that. So they need to be, I want to say, probably no more than half a centimeter, which I'm really sorry. I know, Kate, you work in inches. I genuinely don't know what half a centimeter is. So I should learn in inches and ounces. So just a little bit more, and make sure it's nice and tight because we're not felting this. So it needs to be nice and neat. So then you're going to take the black and you're going to build the top of the beak. By the way, you could have made this in yellow to make a different swan. I should have told you this. One is what are they called now? Anyway, they're different swans. Look it up, or you might know already. I've forgotten which one is which. There's the Berwick swan, isn't there? And then there's I don't know, is it more of a common swan? No idea. So anyway, you're going to build a little bit of black next to, so you still want that 2 centimeters to cover the beak. And you build a bit of black, which is thicker, next to the orange. Don't worry too much about what's happening here on this side because we're going to cover all of that with black. So you just want to make sure that you've got your black there. And then you do this on the other side. So you've got the 2 swans with their beaks literally touching. It all looks very conceptual at the moment, but as soon as you bend it in, you see where you're going with this. So the beak at the moment in the middle looks too long, which is exactly right because it's two beaks actually. So add a little bit more. It's quite delicate to get that covered. And get rid of the rest like that. And what I do now is I'm actually going to tidy up that the black fibers a little bit by stabbing them back into itself so that they're not contaminating the orange in the middle. So you should have two beaks, and if you're bending them in, you have your swans happening here. You don't need to do this. I'm just showing you where we're heading with this. And then you've got, then you bend this in again. So you've got, there's your two swans coming, starting to emerge, right? And the rest of, from the black, from a little bit of black showing, will all be white. And then we're also shaping that into a swan body. So for now, we're just going to use that nice bright white that you've put aside. So this is not your core. And tease that into a strand as well. And then you need to leave about 1/2 centimeter of the black showing, but you're also now giving it a very even cover of the white to start with. So the main thing is, in a minute, if you look at the swans, the head is slightly bigger, the neck is skinny, and then they have the big bodies. But right now, all we want to do is cover the rest of the pipe cleaner with white to cover up anything else that's there. But we also want it to be quite a thin layer so that at the moment we're keeping our options open so that we can have the skinny neck, and then we can build the bulk for the body in a minute. Sorry, this wool keeps tearing. Right. So going all the way. So make that nice and neat for now because we want the neck to be skinny and the rest of the body can be obviously bigger. But we also want to make sure that the head is slightly bulkier. So once you've done that, you're now taking small amounts of the white and all you're going to do is just add it to the top where the head is going to be. So we're building the head up a little bit with very thin layers, very neat. And in a minute, I'm going to stab into the edge again to separate it from the black. So it doesn't look like it's spilling out into the black. So using my fine felting needle, probably is best if you don't have it bent. And just stab into there. So you've got the head slightly bigger. If you can make this delicate, brilliant. If it's a little bit thicker, it doesn't matter. Like my swans are quite thick, but everybody can recognize what they are. And on here, they're even bigger. So, but I'm trying to aim for an even finer finish, which is not, it's not that easy, to be honest. So as soon as you've done this, do the other side because I think it works best if you have them sort of evened out. So remember, we're just going to cover parts of the black, leaving about 1/2 centimeter showing, go all the way down to the other end, keeping the neck part particularly very slim, going all the way down. It doesn't matter how much you build on the body. I've got a lot more here than there, but it doesn't matter. At the moment, we're just focusing on that head part to get the head built up, and then we can build the rest of the swan by just wrapping wool and adding more to it. So if it spills a bit into the black, don't worry because we can felt that back as we've done already. So that's just the head now. And I felt that down too. So tucking it away from the black, make that black visible again. And once you've done that, then we are going to bend the swans into the right position, because we need to see where the neck starts and the body starts after the neck. So you're going to bend this in. So you've got your swans touching beaks, and then you go down like this. So they have long necks. So I want to say the neck needs to measure about from the head down about 2 centimeters. So and don't worry, this part here is not long enough for the body, but we are just, all of this here is soft wool. We are actually felting that. We're sculpting that separately from the wire. So there's your swan heads and necks. The more delicate you can make this, the better. But I understand it's also not that easy. But in the big picture, this will be recognizable as swans. So that even if it doesn't look so neat right now, it will be. So that we're ignoring the neck at the moment because we want to keep that skinny. And you're just going to add wool. And you're going to go further than the actual wire and just keep adding wool. So I hold my finger so that I don't get tempted to put more on the neck. Just add the wool around and around and around. And then you start sculpting that part of the swan. So you want it to be nice and round at the bottom where their tummies are and they're sitting on the water. And then you want to sort of start felting the tail coming up. Obviously, when he's very skinny at the moment, we need to add a lot more wool to him. And if the neck is too skinny, you can always add more layers, but it's better to have it a little bit skinny right now than too thick, and then you have to try and felt it down. So, and this is not the finished size of the swan yet. You're just basically sculpting it as you go. So you want to push that tail up a bit, felting into it, keeping it as 3D as possible. You don't want to flatten the swans. So felt from all directions, felt from the top, and make sure you get that sort of gondola shape of the swan. Now, I will say the fine needle is probably a better way forward because this wool is quite dense, so you probably get more done using the fine needle. And in a minute, we do want a nice transition between the neck and that chest. So I'm going to have to add more wool to build up this part of the swan and go around a little bit where the chest is, but keeping the neck still relatively small. And if your swan is getting too big, then you need to just felt it down a bit because it's the length here that will make it big. And remember, there's no wire in there, so you can actually just felt it down, felt into it, and make it smaller. So this part might be a little bit tricky for some of you because you're sculpting something from literally nothing. And now I've got Angelina fiber in there as well. Told you, it's very annoying. So make sure that you've got that neckline still visible. Felting into it. I mean, you can do all kinds of things by giving them fancy wings as well if you want. I haven't even done that. That's something else you can do if you wish. And when they get attached to your little shape, you can still sculpt the swans as well. So you literally just have to do this, model it on your felting mat. Just keep turning the shape. Eventually it happens. So you get your swan shape going. The danger is of not making a duck. So the idea is that a lot of it is to do with the neck. Keep that neck shape and make sure that they have that bend So they have these almost like set back. Can you see this is just by going that way with the neck rather than that way makes a huge difference. So a lot of it is in the position of the swan as well. So make sure that they go that way and that way when you put them together. So it's almost like they're forming their own little heart shape here. So when they are on there, the necks are slightly back, and that is a very distinct shape of the swan, whereas ducks have got upright necks, white ducks, whatever color ducks. So I'm going to add a little bit more wool to the top here. You don't have to continuously wrapping it. You can also just take little wads of wool and add them to where you want them to go. So I'm just going to add a little bit more here on the top, bulking that part out a little bit. That makes a huge difference. So you've got a nice round shape. So nice body shape here. So the base seems to be big enough, but I want something on top now where the back is. And felt that down. And then you've got to do all of that again with the other one. So you keep it quite fluffy. You want them to look feathery rather than solid. So you don't have to felt them down very, very solidly. And so make sure you get that nice shape here. And then you do the same on the other side. And then all we need to do is put it on the rainbow. There. And obviously now you're gonna have to look at the other one to make sure that they are roughly the same. So start by shaping it. Don't put all the wool on at once. Start by shaping it bit by bit. That tail is literally just wool. There's no pipe cleaner in there. And felt it down. Keep going round. Get that nice chest going. So remember, it needs to go back. The neck needs to go back, but you also need a little bit of chest here. So you don't want to build the neck up, but you do want to build the chest up. And keep it 3D. Don't make it a flat swan. So at this point, if your swan looks like this, what I did is I added more to the back to build that shape up. Now that chest needs a bit of smoothing out. So just keep moving your swans on your felting mat, because by just moving them around, you make sure that they are staying 3D. You keep your hand always stabbing in the same direction rather than having to sort of find an awkward angle to get to your shapes, and that also keeps your fingers safe. Because your shape on the felting mat is the part that is the most flexible to move around. And then I just used a little wad, just make it sort of into a little cushion like that, and I popped it on the back of the swan like this, and just felted it down softly around the sides, keeping the bulk on the back. And getting that felted on. And you can repeat any of those processes, obviously, if you need to add a bit more bulk, just repeat what you've just done. I'm using my fine needle just to remind you, and I'm felting all over. This is literally sculpting with wool on your mat. So this potentially is probably the trickiest part of this whole project, because you haven't got a template, and you just have to sort of gauge it by looking at it. So this one is definitely a bit bigger, but I think that's okay. You can have a bigger and a slightly smaller swan, or you can have them exactly the same if you want to add more wool. And they've got sort of that dip here as well. So also, even if they're slightly different size right now, you can still add more shape to them. So what you are going to fasten them on, you're actually fastening them on slightly in front of your dip of the heart. And to fasten them on, you hold them like this, and then you stab into the edge of the swans and into the heart shape. Well, it's not a heart shape yet, but it will be when I bend it. So you're actually, I'll just show it from this direction. Make sure they're in the center, and you're just stabbing into the edge of this fluffy swan and into the blue wool, which is still quite soft, just to get them felted on so that you can let go of them, right? And then you're going to add more of the blue purple mix underneath the swans. This is another opportunity for you to sculpt your swans a little bit now that they're fastened onto that shape. You can fix them together in the center by stabbing into the center. Even though you're making a groove, it does actually also attach them. So make sure they're in the middle, and then when you bend that in, that you have got a heart shape, if that's what you want. So maybe try that out, what that looks like. And then that wool mix that you've used before, I mean, you don't have to use that wool mix, but use the blue and the purple, or you can just use blue or just purple. I've got a tiny bit of Angelina fiber left. I'm actually going to use some of that to put in the water. And you are now building sort of a lake underneath it. You can keep that sort of with a neat edge if you fold the wool over like that, and then felt it into the existing frame. And that secures the swans onto the heart even more. And then you can also give it that impression that they're swimming on this lovely water. Now you can felt this down quite solidly or keep it soft. It's up to you. So it kind of sits on the whole of the base of the swans, and it shapes the tip of the heart. Keep checking that they're symmetrical, because if you're hanging this in the window, in theory you could see it from both directions, so it could be double-sided, and you can actually felt into that dip quite a bit more to make that pointy, so it looks more pointy from one side than the other. And then you've got that nice sort of shape on the other side. So you just need to neaten that up now. Everything needs to be neatened up where the swans are sitting. And one side can be the heart, like this, and the other side can be the water that they're swimming in. So that completes the rainbow colors. Admittedly, we've lost a bit of the blue. So you could have more blue and then more purple in the center. Entirely up to you. I'm quite happy with this combination. So what I'm saying is you could have a little bit of blue, blending it so it goes towards the green here, and then you've got the purple in the center. so that you continue in that same way as you have done with your rainbow theme. And by the way, it doesn't have to be that way at all. You can mix the colors however you want to. You don't have to make it rainbow. It can be just whatever colors in whichever order. Just don't show me. I might freak out. There, so you could have a little bit of blue here on the sides, then leading to purple in the center, and then that completes the whole rainbow theme. So, and you've got, oh my God, look how much wool I've got left. Honestly, this is more wool than what I've already used. So if you want to make more, you can. There's so much wool left. And including the white for the swan, and you can use anything for core wool, to be honest. The main thing is that you've got the colors to make those shapes, and then you would obviously just need to source your own pipe cleaners, which of course we sell. So I'm just being fussy now by adding more details to it. Make sure you keep that transition nice, that blend from tones of colors to the next tone of color. Keep that nice and blended. I think it definitely works to have that sort of a smooth transition. And there you go. And then you just have to tweak your heart shape so that it actually looks symmetrical. You can make it more pointy or less pointy. And if you are fastening the red embroidery thread into it, I would just use a sewing needle and sew through the top of the heart. So use a sewing needle. I've just grabbed one here. It's quite a small eye. I think I can manage. Yeah, there we go. So pop that in there, and then all you need to do is just go through the wool, wherever the center is there, and then you can hang it up. That's it. However long you want this to be. Pop a notch on there. And there is your little heart swan decoration with the two swans forming a separate heart inside the heart. And yeah, wherever you put the Angelina fiber, that's entirely up to you. But that was my first attempt, so I'm actually much happier with the thinness of the necks there. But yeah, look pretty the same to me. So I'm just gonna show you this on the screen on the other camera, so you can see it from here as well. There we go, and it can twirl, and you can see it from all directions. And like I say, this is a good base. Maybe put other things on there. You can put other birds there, maybe some lovebirds, or other animals. To be honest, it can have anything sitting on there, and that's basically it. So hopefully, all of that has made sense to all of you. So I'm gonna stop the recording now. So just bear with me. It's this button. Okay.